Darrel, we have a question from somebody that is on the line. Is it okay with you if I bring them in?
Please do.
Okay, fantastic. All right, James, you're on the air with Darrel.
Yes, hello.
Hi, hello. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Go ahead and ask your question, sir.
I had a question. I was very curious about the whole, alien abduction, demonic possession kind of thing.
Okay.
And I heard that most cases it's actually been an abduction, but rather sleep paralysis.
Okay. What would you say to that, Darrel?
Well, CNN called me years ago. In fact, they came here and stayed for 3 days and interviewed me. And the first question they asked me was, are you familiar with the work of Dr. Susan Clancy at Harvard? That being the idea of
did you say Harvard?
Harvard.
Harvard University?
Dr. Susan Clancy's work at Harvard, yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, I think I've seen that.
Yeah. Then I said, yes, I am familiar with her work. And I said, I don't think that she will be able to win this discussion. And they said, why not? And I said, well, the fact is that over 60% of these abductions occurred during broad daylight, or while these people are wide awake. In South America, it's 92%. So the idea that it's sleep paralysis doesn't work unless you're in bed asleep. And since most of these people are awake, that argument pretty much fails on its face. If she's going to argue the point from sleep paralysis while abductees are asleep, you might have an argument there. But the problem is some of these people are coming back with these fluorescent traces on them. They're coming back with cuts, bruises, scars. Some are so horrific that they couldn't have done them themselves, and they're there overnight and cauterized. One lady comes back with half her labia. One man that I looked at had a large chunk out of his back missing and had been cauterized overnight. How does one have that happen and not know what happened, so to speak? And some of these people are coming back with objects that are implanted in them, and after doing 24 surgeries to date, I can tell you for a fact that these rare objects that we're finding are in fact extraterrestrial. That did not come by sleep paralysis.
Geez, so you were actually there during the surgery? You saw the doctor or the surgeon pull out the actual microchip or implant?
I was. In fact, these were surgeries ordered by me and done by doctors. Some of them, one of them was a cardiovascular surgeon that works directly with us. Other doctors were hired guns, and I was the hypnotic anesthesia therapist for these surgeries, and they were done for and by our medical team. And all the evidence comes back to me, and that's just the way we do business. We go after evidence wherever we find it. Evidence is what it's about, not theory. Somebody's theory, it has to be sleep paralysis, or it has to be something else. Or another doctor in England, in Livermore, I believe, her statement is, well, if you put this strange little device on people's heads with electronics, and I turn on the knob and run this electricity through your head, I can make you think you had an alien abduction. My response to her was, does it give you a clue of what some of these people might have gone through? I said, you actually believe that people snuck around for 50 years before you ever invented this device, snuck into your office and put it on their head in the future so they'd have alien abductions in the past. I mean, it's just beyond stupid, some of the ideas some of these people come up with. Yeah, you can make people think all kinds of things if you want to. The problem is coming back with an implanted object inside you that's extraterrestrial, wrapped inside your own surface skin, hidden and contained that requires 4 different major things to happen to that biological cocoon that the objects are in, so that your body won't even recognize it. That's a pretty good trick for sleep paralysis.
You know, let's talk about some of these microchips too. I find this fascinating. You look at the technology today that's being boasted with nanotechnology, and they can make nanomotors that can be ran off of the actual human body that will catch a ride off of a cell or a bacteria and, get transplanted to its location and lock on. Some of the older implants that came out looked like, something now that would be used in the late 70s or 80s. So I wonder if some of these implants are actually our own government doing some type of black ops, and they're using the excuse of, it's aliens. Or have you found, let's get into some of these microchips that you found over the years. What do they look like? How are they activated? Is it like an infusion of biotech combined with technology?
Well, first of all, I discovered the implant phenomena in 1960 at age 12. How I discovered it, I was on the table inside the craft, lying with my feet tilted upward, about 11 degrees, and I overheard these two cosmic skinheads talking. One of them was the doctor type. The other one was the guy that got me every time. And the fact is that when I heard what they wanted to do and were going to do, I broke down and started crying. I couldn't figure out why they would want to hurt a little boy like me. Why would they want to do this kind of stuff to a little guy like me? I didn't understand. I was only 12 years old. What if somebody comes and grabs your kid in the middle of the night and says, I think we're going to do a little neat operation on your kid. We'll put him back in for the morning so you won't be the wiser. And as long as we don't let you know, it'll probably be okay. Why does that not work with anyone except if they think they have a bald head and large black eyes? That whole concept just eludes me. The point is, I ended up, they came over and they cut a large section out of my nasal passage through the nasal septum. And an ENT found this, by the way, 2 years ago at the VA hospital. He said, when did you have this surgery? Well, I didn't tell him, but I later told another one of my doctors, and she was stunned to listen to it. And then I said, what they did do is they took a long needle-like device about 8-9 inches long and inserted up my nasal passage and rammed it past the soft tissue and hit the bone and rammed it through the bone, broke the bone. It was very painful. They did not use any anesthesia or say, this won't hurt you. It did, and I remember it very well. And then they pulled the needle back out, and a little silver sphere on the end was missing. Later, I went and got an X-ray many years later, and I realized they had removed it, or it had fell out in some way, probably a removal. So I didn't care much about my case because there was no physical evidence to support it. I mean, I was there. I did experience it, but where's the beef, so to speak? And several years later, a man sent me, he called me and said, I had the same event happen to me in 1960, just like it did you. And I said, I think you read my story, and that's where you got this. He sent me the X-ray of the objects right behind his eye, exactly where mine would have been, and how it was placed in, and there it is in his own X-ray, and these doctors can't figure out how he got it there. This was pretty amazing to me. That made my case more interesting to me because there was someone who had the same procedure, and he still had the object located in there. So when I spoke to 250 surgeons at John Muir Medical Hospital in an AMA-sponsored program for doctors, and I spoke on medical complications of alleged human-alien contact, specifically implants. I made these predictions. This is relevant to your question. If these objects are alien in origin, when we do these operations, there will be no chronic or acute inflammatory response or chronic or acute inflammatory cells around these objects. That would not be true if that were a spatter effect from a gun or a splinter in your foot or something like that. You will get inflammatory cells. That's why the acute inflammatory cells is going to be the white cells that go there, and that's what makes it real tender in that area. And chronic ones would be when the little phagocytes grab their little hands together, so to speak, and they just wall it off so that the body won't notice that there's a foreign object there. The second one is nerve cells will be present and inappropriate to the affected area. Third, is these objects will be absent from any discernible technology if they are alien. And the metal and the plastic or ceramic implants that we are currently studying are passé, from 5 to 50 years old, and they're out of date. Those 4 predictions became true during the first surgery we did in 1995. I also told these doctors, if in fact we pull out any objects that are human related, there will be a discernible technology. There probably will be a name on it, like a corporation name, or some way to define kind of entity, put that in there. And by entity, I don't mean alien. I mean a government or other entity. We have never found any of those so far.
Well, I mean, I don't think that if, a military organization, Black Ops, is going to use, if they're going to use an IBM type, invention of a microchip that's tiny, or they're not going to put IBM on it to track them back if somebody picks it up.
All that makes sense. The problem is that the objects we found all match the original predictions I made if they were alien. The objects that we found in these people, some of them have been in there for probably 40 to 50 years. Nobody in the Central Intelligence Agency 40 to 50 years ago, that would be 1995, about 1945, started putting implants in people that have these type of capabilities. In fact, one Nobel laureate looked at the finds on the first of these predictions about the non-inflammatory response of the biology surrounding the metallic objects, and he said, Mr. Sims, if you could replicate that in a lab, you would in effect probably have already a Nobel laureate find. And I said, and what lab, sir, would you recommend me sending that to? He looked at me, smiled, and said, none. I said, exactly. That's why I have the evidence and don't intend to give it to anybody unless I have total control of it. Otherwise, that technology is going to disappear and somebody else is going to get credit for it and say, oh, look what we accidentally found.
And if you have microchips that are from alien origin, from the people that you've had an opportunity to interview and be there when surgeries were done to see these chips, then clearly the government's going to have them, and they would have the opportunity to reverse engineer those. The ones that you've seen, are they all the same? Are they in the same locations, or do they vary in size, shape, material, etc.?
They are all different. Many of them are very different. And the fact is that when we use the word microchip, I would use that term for a government object if we found one. There would be some purpose in it being a microchip. These are not chips at all. They are, in fact, objects that function and or operate to control or modify the behavior of the abductee in certain events at certain times. And in my opinion, they are parasitic in origin and in their methodology. And their purpose is one of the things we noticed in some of our abductees that their neurotransmitters have been altered to some degree. That would be serotonin, dopamine, just as an example. If that's true, one neuropsychologist told me, Mr. Sims, if this statement is true, she says, my God, whoever's doing this literally owns whoever it is they're tampering with, because they can control your emotional state and the way you're going to perceive and do things. And I said, that is true. She said, well, these people, if this is true, they're just literally doing whatever it is. And I said, but through these implants and other things, we actually think that programs are run through abductees. And some of these programs, there are two. Are you ready for this? Your audience is really going to hit the fan when they hear this one. One of the programs that's run, there's several of them, but one of them is called Contactee.